Today on the DML News podcast, we have an interview with the awesome Harlan Hill, a Trump surrogate and a former co-host to my father. It's going to be great. We give you insights on Trump, insights on how the campaign is doing, and just a little bit more about Harlan's really successful documentary and where it will be playing this week. So get ready. It's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hey everybody, it's Denny here, filling in for DML, Ryan on the controls, and we have a special guest via Zoom today. It is Harlan Hill, which most of you, probably 90% of you, are totally familiar with him. He used to work very closely with my dad during Trump's first presidential campaign. He has then since gone on to work with the Trump team pretty closely, including developing some documentaries and different visual projects. In fact, his big one that just came out, and we streamed it a few weeks back, was Culture War, which kind of covers Kamala and Biden's disastrous handling of Afghanistan with the withdrawal. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we have a lot to talk about with Trump going to McDonald's, Kamala and JD Vance versus their take on Jesus, and a lot about censorship, Elon Musk's role in the Trump administration, and just what we can expect to see in the aftermath of the election, depending on who wins. And just a little highlight from Harlan as to where Culture War is actually going to be playing this coming Friday. So here is Harlan Hill. All right, Harlan Hill, how's it going? Thank you for joining us today. I know Team DML always loves when you're on, so they're going to be very happy with today's interview. And just appreciate that you're joining on the show today.
Great to be with you guys. I think this is the first time that we've had this sort of format. I'm used to your dad, so I'm looking forward to.
It's a little bit of a change up, yeah. So hopefully I'm not as intense and as structured as him, but you know what I mean. But we got some great topics that I've been jotting down to talk about. I think the big thing we should totally jump into was Trump's McDonald's event this weekend. I mean, just the videos and photos coming out of it alone. I've loved it. I've loved every second of it. It's just seeing him in the apron and at the fry station and him just chatting it up. It's just classic Trump. But of course, you have people like CBS and even other more leftist organizations, even like the Palmer Report, calling it a stunt, saying it's disrespectful to lower wage workers, or even in some cases, they're saying it's demeaning of Trump doing it. And yet, what does that say to their opinion of those who actually work those kind of jobs? So my take is I think it was fantastic. And I think it showcases the fact that no one can find evidence of Kamala Harris working at a McDonald's when she was a kid, when she claims that she, worked the fry station. So besides the fact that it's a nice jab at her, but also an event that showcases, hey, man, I can, work the fry station and just kind of be like your everyday man. Do you think this is going to be maybe a game-changing event that helps him in these final days to the election? And should he do more of these kind of events with the time that he has left before Election Day?
I gotta completely agree with you. I thought that it was pretty amazing, the visual. First of all, the photos are so good that they seem like AI. I know there's a lot of chatter on the internet about this because they're so good and surreal. I mean, iconic. I mean, him waving out the window, him at the fryer. Look, it's crazy to read, for instance, the New York Times or the Washington Post. They both had just doozies of articles out on this. They're saying that Trump's trolling her and suggesting that she never worked at McDonald's without any evidence. So they're asking him, they're putting the burden on him to prove a negative, as opposed to going to Kamala and saying, well, do you have a W-2 or something from then? Can you pull your IRS tax transcript and show us where the local McDonald's franchise actually? Can you show us the New York Times and the Washington Post with their wide investigative journalism units, supposedly, They haven't been able to, you know, that if they could uncover a modicum of evidence to substantiate that she ever worked there, they would be out with that. Oh, Trump's a liar, you know, the whole thing. They can't even do that. They can't even give this like the laptop treatment or the Russia collusion treatment where they're at least like faking it. It's embarrassing, really. And what Trump is so good at is getting like shining a light on these events. And I think it does matter. I think it does matter that he is he's able to go into a situation like at McDonald's and work the fry station with like, you know, he's got the French cuffs with the cufflinks and the tie and everything, but then he's got the apron over it, and he does it, and he's a literal billionaire. And somehow it doesn't feel like disingenuous or pandering or anything like that. It just looked like he was having fun. I can't imagine Kamala Harris being able to pull that off. I'm not sure like Barack Obama could pull that off, or Joe Biden, right?
Right.
Because they actually would think it's beneath him. I think Trump was just having fun, and he showed that there is dignity in all work, that, you know, that there's nothing beneath him, that he's willing to go and sit down and work alongside regular, average, everyday Americans, serve Americans, you know, through the drive-through window, and he's comfortable. It was amazing.
What I find so laughable too, right? I mean, one of the things that are coming, and we're playing some B-roll over this too, just so our viewers can see it. Yeah. But one of the things that I find laughable with, I think sometimes just the absolute low IQ of leftists and liberals, is that there is this poster being spread on X and elsewhere, showing that the McDonald's location was going to be closed down and cornered off for Trump's arrival, and that there was, you know, screening of the people who were coming up through the drive-through, even though there was like thousands of people, you know, surrounding this location. Yeah. And you know, they're trying to frame it as like, oh, this was so staged and this was so this. It's like, well, after this president just survived 2 assassination attempts, constant threats on his life, and the fact that this is just protocol of secret security, how is it that you're so Trump deranged syndrome mindset can't, I don't know, articulate the fact that even if it was Biden or Kamala, all of these places are supposed to be cornered off so that their safety is a priority. So it's almost like they're really taking it to like a face value that like he didn't really truly work at McDonald's that day. It was all just a photo op stage. It's like, no, he was working, but he was doing it to prove a point on Kamala, and also just to showcase, you know, that he cares about all forms of worker, whether you're someone who's white collar, blue collar, or just starting out.
Well, let me tell you, having been to Mar-a-Lago recently, before the attempted assassination attempts and after, the security's on a totally different level. And I'm going to tie it back to why that matters with McDonald's. You know, when you're driving onto the compound now, you know, before you even get onto the property, you have to drive your car through like these tents, right? And they're bringing the dogs up. Everybody gets out the car. They go through everything. I mean, they basically tear apart the vehicle before you can even. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, it's great. It should be this way, you know. And so, if that's the standard of security now, to, you know, just visit the compound as somebody that's been vetted and gone through Secret Service before you even get to Mar-a-Lago, then, you know, why wouldn't you logically expect that there is at least some approximate, some like comparability in security to like drive up to the drive-thru with them? Like, Secret Service is not going to permit people to drive up off the street and come by the window and shake hands with President Trump and order from, you know, order a Big Mac. Like, that would be crazy. They have to close down. It would be a madhouse too. It would be an uncontrollable security nightmare if you just left the McDonald's open. It had to be closed, and they know this. It, like, you know, I was talking about how President Trump's able to do this, and he doesn't look disingenuous. The criticism from the mainstream media, these liberals on X, and they're so triggered by this. All of that is disingenuous, right? They feel that the ship is sinking right now. They're taking on water. This guy keeps running up the score on them. I mean, he was just on Fox News this morning in the Bronx, in a barbershop, talking politics with these guys, and it was great, right? And they have a candidate that they are afraid to put out in front of Americans. We're in the closing days of this campaign. We're 2 weeks out, basically 2 weeks from tomorrow, right? And she's taking days off. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. So they have to put her in hiding because every time somebody sees her, every time she interacts with regular everyday Americans, she says something that's crazy, or she looks like she's totally unprepared. And he's willing to talk to anybody and just be a regular guy. He's working his butt off, going to multiple events a day, holding rallies every day all over the country, just outworking her.
Right. So play these two clips really quick, back to back. The first one is Kamala Harris, and then the next one is JD Vance.
With the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
Anti-Christian rhetoric and anti-Christian approach to public policy. I don't think that we've, that's right, Jesus is king, and I don't think that we've seen... I don't think that we've seen anything like this in modern American politics.
About Kamala for a second, right? Because this was a big thing that happened over the weekend too. Because to your point, like when I see Trump, especially now in these last few weeks at these events, he is relaxed. He's himself. He's got that energy. And then with her, if you take away the mainstream media cleanup duties that they always have with her, she is always stumbling. If her teleprompter's off, she doesn't know what to say. And a very big moment she had this weekend, a bad moment, obviously, was at one of her rallies. I think she was talking about reproductive rights and all that jazz. And there was an attendee that shouted out, Jesus is Lord. And her immediate reaction was, not at this rally. You're supposed to be down the block. And yet you got JD Vance, who I think has been absolutely killing it too on the campaign trail. He gets a similar situation with Christ is King, and he's like, yeah, Christ is King. Like, what I know he is a Christian, but just welcoming of it. So when you see her with that kind of reaction, I'm always baffled by it, and I would love your perspective on it. How, I'm a Christian, I'm voting for Trump. I don't understand how traditional Christians, or even those that are Jewish or even Muslim, because when you look at what the Democrats stand for, it's so juxtaposed to those beliefs. If you're Jewish, you care about Israel. Kamala and a lot of them have given no effort to it, truthfully. If you're a Muslim and you're traditional, they're all for the most crazy LGBTQ things you could ever think of, and that is against their ways. And yet they vote blue, and I don't understand it. So I'm not sure. Or do you think maybe as we get to Election Day, we are going to see an exodus of those with strong religious beliefs, or even those that just have a common religious belief, be dissuaded by something like that? I mean, because Kamala is basically telling you, oh, you think Jesus is Lord? I don't want you here.
Well, I mean, let's just honestly assess what the Democratic Party is today. It's comprised of largely white women. That's really the base of the Democratic Party now. White women that believe you should be able to kill your child up to 9 months. It's a death cult. It's inherently, I think, satanic. What is what's even Kamala Harris's value system? Like, what does she believe? When she's younger, not even really that long ago, just 5-6 years ago, is she Hindu or is she Christian? Like, I don't know. She's given conflicting answers on this.
I agree.
In the audience, she said she grew up in a Hindu temple and Sometimes she says she grew up in, black church. I mean, I don't, and those are incompatible. I mean, those are totally different value systems and belief. And I'm not casting dispersions on Hindu. I have many Hindu friends that I think are great. I'm not, but let's be honest. Like, what is your belief system here? I don't think she has one.
Harlan,
I don't think she has one.
Harlan, I totally agree with you. I've actually said it to my father before. I think if her handlers, team, whatever, came up to her and said, "Hey, you have a 101% chance of winning this election if you say that there are cartels trafficking migrants over and sex trafficking, and also the border needs to be closed, and we should do tariffs," like all the things that Trump's doing. And in a way, she's kind of made some pivots like that. If you do that, you'll win. So to your point, I don't think she has a value system. I think she just absolutely loves and craves the idea of power and being the first woman and person of color president. But to your point, like, I think when you follow her career trajectory, nothing has been consistent with her at all in any way whatsoever. So I'm in that belief too. I don't think she has a value system or base. I think she just wants to say whatever gets people over to her failing campaign.
Agreed. I mean, I guess this is what I'll say about Kamala. This is just my general sense. I'm no fan of hers. I think the reason Trump does so well and has for, basically driven the political discourse in this country for the last 8 years, 10 years, in some cases, is because he just says what he believes, and the consequences be damned. And sometimes as a Trump supporter, that that has its ups and downs. But in the post-Obama era, where everything was so fake and scripted, coming out of the Obama administration, everything was so fake and scripted, hope, change, I think people were yearning for just something real.
Right.
And the Democrats really haven't figured that out. And I think Kamala was part of the same sort of strategy of this carefully manicured, curated caricature of what a presidential candidate should be, and people just don't buy. It's actually a turnoff. So what I was going to say is, I feel like Kamala would be doing so much better in this if she were just herself,
Right.
and instead of trying to triangulate what people believe, if she just came out and was just like a likable lady, and she made some gaffes and whatever, I mean, that's kind of what Joe Biden's secret was for a long time. He just, I am what I am. I make gaffes, I make mistakes, but I've been around for so long. You know who I am. They haven't really done that with her. And so, to your point, she's been changing her positions all over the place. She's so heavily scripted that I think that it's got into her head too, that she's nervous. You can tell, like, in these interviews, she's really nervous. She doesn't want to make a mistake. Wrong mindset, wrong mentality. If you have in the back of your head, you're like manifesting that you're going to mess something up because you're constantly worried you're going to mess something up. And I think that's, I mean, that's really the story of the Kamala Harris campaign. Totally inauthentic, doesn't know what she believes in, doesn't even know who she is.
Yep.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Totally agree. And she just is relying so heavily on some of these big names and celebrities, and even these celebrities outside of their fan base, they're usually not, Lizzo. But when you take out her fan base, she's not really someone you're going to be looking up to. I'd say if I had to put a pinpoint on her biggest player, I'd say it's probably bringing out Obama. And even then, he's not necessarily, he's supposed to be the king of the Democrat Party, and he's not really moving the needle for her. Now, for Trump, and I want to get into this a little bit, I think one of his big players, unquestionably, has been Elon Musk. I mean, he's gone from, I'm this very successful science guy who just wants to shoot my rockets up in the air and free speech on Twitter, to, I'm jumping into this and I want this man elected. So he's been in Pennsylvania, and he's been doing a lot of speeches and just trying to get rallied support. In fact, we have a clip here. We'll play play of Elon Musk announcing, the $1 million giveaway that he's going to be doing each and every day for people signing this petition. So, Ryan, you want to play that clip?
So I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election. One of the challenges we're having is well, how do we get people to know about this petition? Because the legacy media won't report on it. Not everyone's on X. So I figure, how do we get people to know about it? Well, this news, I think, is going to really fly. So every day between now and the election, we'll be awarding $1 million, starting tonight. All right. So tonight's person is John Dreyer. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So, by the way, John had no idea. So, anyway, you're welcome. Yeah. So the only thing we ask for the $1 million is that you be a spokesperson for the petition, and that's it. Really, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So wait, do you want to say anything? Yeah. Go ahead.
Thanks, Elon. This is great. I'm really ecstatic. I want to congratulate you on your rocket catch last week. Big curveball. But yeah, I've been following you for 10 years. Got your biography 10 years ago, and been watching ever since. And big fan. So
thank you. All right. Well, cool.
So Harlan, when you see that, he is saying hey, get signed up, get registered to vote, get the word out, get Trump in. It's very clear that Musk, without question, is all in for Trump. So let's just say, knock on wood, and hopefully that Trump does win the election and we get another 4 years of him. Do you foresee, just based on their relationship now, Elon Musk having a big role with his administration for those 4 years, or whether it's in the administration or at least working with them? Because we know that Musk has been basically ostracized by the Biden-Harris administration for the last few years. Even when they have an electric vehicle event, they're not inviting Musk when he's been the big architect for all that. So do you foresee that Musk is going to be a very big component of a Trump administration?
Gosh, I hope Elon's an integral part of the Trump administration. There are 2.1 million civilian employees of the federal government, which is crazy. I mean, that's great. I don't know what these people are doing.
Right.
Pissing away money, frankly. But it is so okay. So when Elon went into Twitter, when he bought Twitter, he laid off around 80% of the staff. Now, he didn't just lay off the staff because they were wasting money and they were sitting around doing nothing. Okay, that's part of it. It's about, realizing some efficiency, which we could definitely use inside of the federal government. But the other reason that he did it was because his very own employees at Twitter were actively undermining his instructions. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Sound familiar? Because that's what Trump went through in 2016.
Yep.
Okay. Trump needs to go in day one and lay off federal workers. Get out of here. We'll rehire. I mean, I honestly think there should be a quota. Go in and give every department head a directive. Cut half the workforce. Pay him severance, whatever you got to do, get him out of here. You're done. Yep. And if they want to challenge us in court because of the government union, whatever, just do it and ask questions later. I mean, it's got because there is when we talk about the swamp, it is these 2.1 million civil servants inside the federal government. Now, some of them, post office, all that, there's a need for some of them. Okay. And I'm not counting the military because there's over 1 million additional, employees at DOD. Obviously, we're not going to lay off soldiers, but in terms of the civil servants over there, at Department of Agriculture, Treasury, the State Department, there's like over 100,000 employees at the State Department, and as far as I can tell, they're not really accomplishing much in the interest of the American people, other than meddling and creating other incentives for war and regime change abroad. I mean, so the first thing Trump needs to do, and I hope he does it with Elon's guidance, is get this government moving and get it responsive to the instructions of any president of the United States, whether that's President Trump, President J.D. Vance, or whomever, is like the directions that come from the White House, they're your boss.
With Musk, right? He has been vouching for a few weeks now, or a few months now, that he would love even just having a department position where he clears out or helps Trump clear out all that swampy individuals. Because look, a beauty of Trump, and they always try to paint it as negative, and I think it's a positive. If you're not doing your job, you're fired. Like that, like he's just right? You're fired. Whereas the Biden-Harris administration, they are welcoming the incompetence, and instead of firing the incompetent individuals, they are promoting them. So to your point, like you get Trump in there, maybe with Musk or whoever else, Tulsi, RFK, clear them out, because to your point, they are eradicating the inside of what it's supposed to be. The federal government used to be boring. It was supposed to be boring, and now it has become a nuisance to everyone in such a deep extent. So I want to bring this up because, with Musk, when he took over Twitter, and now X, he really allowed free speech to kind of catch a second wind and prosper, because I remember the old Twitter. And back in the day when you and my father were doing the show, I mean, you guys were awesome. Everyone loved the commentary and just the repertoire. But I feel like always the biggest frustration was, Facebook's limiting us on this. We're getting censored on that. We're dealing with this. So my biggest worry, I have a lot of worries with the Kamala presidency, and I think a lot of our viewers have this too. My biggest fear with a Kamala presidency is that if she's in there, I think one of the first things she's going to do in her first year is, how do I water down the First Amendment to the barest of bones? And I wouldn't even be shocked if that involves going after Elon Musk because of X, like they just did with the Telegram owner, that Russian guy a few weeks back. So, I mean, do you foresee that if, knock on wood, if Kamala does win and we get, 4, God forbid, 8 years of her, do you totally see the diminishing of free speech, both just, in person, but also online? Because it almost like breaks my heart to imagine X being watered down again, and then Elon Musk somehow getting targeted and being thrown behind bars.
Yeah. The first thing, and they've told you this is what their intention is. I think the first thing they do is pack the Supreme Court, and you control the Supreme Court. I mean, that opens up all the pathways. You wanna reinterpret the First Amendment? Okay, we can do that. That's the end of the republic. We're this close. We're on a nice edge. And we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. That would happen in the next term. It's sort of poetic in a way that we're going to figure out, we're going to learn in this next term, in the next 2 years, we're going to learn whether or not we're still a free and independent people with God-given rights or not. And they are a fascist regime that is hell-bent on maintaining power by any means necessary, and that includes abridging all of your rights. And I think you're right. I mean, we lose, if it weren't for X, I'm not sure we'd be where we are in this cycle. I'm not sure that Joe Biden wouldn't still be on the ticket, because I think the media would have papered over that. Oh, he had a bad night. They tried, but it was so much, and I think it's in no small part because of X, that they were overwhelmed by it. It was irrefutable evidence. Right. They would have censored those videos on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of that, if they could have. Right. The same stuff they did with the New York Post story on the Hunter Biden laptop in the run up to the election in 2020, which is that you just can't see it. You couldn't share a link to a New York Post story. You couldn't share the link. That's crazy. So I don't think it's like unreasonable that they would have done the same thing to clips of the presidential debate, if they could help it. The impact that Elon has had on saving this country and saving our rights is tremendous. He will go down. Put aside his business contributions, which have been incredible: SpaceX, Neuralink, Tesla. Put all that aside. What he has done to preserve our rights is, we all owe him greatly, and it's been to the detriment of his businesses, because, as you mentioned, they've gone after him as a result of it.
Yep. Well, one of the things too, Harlan, I want to get your take on it too, because one of the biggest worries that has come with this election season, and this is as a result of what happened with 2020, is the early voting. Now, I'm hopeful and under the belief that with the surge that has been coming in with the early votes, that it's not necessarily 2020 where mostly Democrats were taking advantage of it. I've seen, and we've seen it with Team DML, a lot of Republicans saying like, hey, the best way to encompass the too big to rig is to play them at their own game. So get in with the early votes so that there's no shenanigans when the day arrives. Has there been any indication, or have you seen any indication that the early voting may be a little bit more balanced, or at least favorable this time around, whereas when 2020 it was kind of a result of COVID and kind of caught a lot of us off guard?
Yeah, I mean, in every battleground state that I've been tracking, Democrats are still returning their mail-in ballots, for instance, at a higher rate than Republicans, but they're dramatically underperforming the advantage that they had in 2020. I'm encouraged by that. I mean, traditionally, we'll win, day of election day voting by double digits, and that will undoubtedly be the case this time. The Democrats, they depend on running up the score early,
right?
And I don't think that's playing out for them. Now, we can't rest on our laurels and bank this. I still think this is going to be a close election. 16 was decided by roughly 50,000 votes in a handful of states. This will be probably very close as well in a handful of states. It seems, though, that right now, if everybody shows up and does what they're supposed to do, we're going to sweep all of the battleground states. This is what I'm seeing from internal polling that I'm reviewing, and this is what the public polls show as well. But we've got to show up. I think Trump is in his best position now that he's ever been in any of these presidential cycles.
Right. So then, one of my big questions here, I know I had sent the report on it, but there is this AP report where a lot of different judges, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, are speaking out with concerns of another January 6th event, because if they're not going to win or have their workings play out for them with the early votes, or switching up Biden with Kamala, or all the little strategies they've been trying. I think a big long-term strategy they've been just trying to hone in for these 4 years is he tried to overturn the election. He tried, meaning Trump. Trump tried to overturn the election. He tried to do this and that with January 6th, even though there has been a breadcrumb trail of evidence showcasing he did not do that. He was trying to protect the Capitol. Oh, and by the way, there's a video of Nancy Pelosi admitting fault. So, I think a big thing that, I mean, this is more predictive, but I think that if Trump wins, they're going to try and elevate those fears again to the highest level. And yet I'm kind of under the belief that if he wins, I wouldn't be shocked if Democrats riot and try to make something of themselves. I mean, do you think that that could be a little bit of a flip this time around? Because one thing I've seen is that Trump has always had his loyal fan base. I mean, I voted for him all the last times, but the amount of people who have never casted a vote for him or ever casted a vote that have turned to him, I think really does have Democrats shaking in their boots. So do you think maybe the Democrats will try and play an aftermath game of the election to prevent anything or any way of him actually getting inaugurated?
Yeah, I mean, you saw this. I believe it was Jamie Raskin said that he was open to not certifying.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. It's just ironic. That's what they went after Trump for. Look, I'm just to be very pointed on this. I'm very concerned about the risk of domestic terrorism in this country in the wake of the 2024 election coming from the left. They are actually radical. Everything that they accuse us of being is actually often what they are. And I would stay out of cities. I mean, it's got me second guessing, do I take the family to the inauguration in DC?
Right.
Maybe not, I'll probably still go, but maybe leave the family at home. It's we're a deeply sick country. And I don't think the Democrats are just going to let this happen without some sort of violent response. I mean, we saw this in 2020 with the riots in every major American city. This is their playbook. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Denny. I mean, it's not going to be good.
Right. Harlan, I want to ask you about culture war, but before we get into that with the end of the program here, since you do work very closely with the Trump team, and we see it with the McDonald's event. I mean, even just when Trump was at the Al Smith dinner, he was very, relaxed and making some very funny jokes. Is he in good spirits, like behind the scenes and, out of the way of the cameras? Does he feel pretty confident with how the election is likely going to play out? Or like, how is his overall demeanor right now?
He's the best I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
Awesome. He's confident. He's cool, collected.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. He's the best I've ever seen him. Disciplined.
That makes me happy to hear that, just because, I mean, I know he usually is, but I'm like, is he a little bit stressed behind the scenes? Because, I mean, I don't know any other human being on earth that has to deal with so much in his world that he has to deal with. But, so Harlan, one of the big things that we had a few weeks ago was we streamed the Culture War documentary, which you created and directed, and it was awesome. Me and Ryan watched it while we streamed it. How has been the reaction to Culture War?
Oh, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. We've over 30 million views across all the platforms. President Trump gave us an exclusive interview for that, along with Steve Bannon. Literally, I got that interview with him literally a week before he reported to prison. It's been awesome. And, we're having our screening at Mar-a-Lago. We've got a private event going there later this week. It should be pretty exciting. We're really, really happy with it. It played an important role in elevating the Afghanistan debacle and Kamala Harris's direct ties to that decision, to the national consciousness. So we couldn't be more pleased with it. And we're working on a couple of other documentaries as well for after the election.
Oh, that's all. I was going to actually ask if there was any upcoming projects or anything else you'll be working on. Yeah.
We'll have some news on that soon.
Oh, great. Well, Harlan, most of our team totally knows who you are, but just in case if we've had anyone new, is there anything you want to give credential-wise to follow you at, or just to check you out? Yeah.
Sure. You can follow me on X at Harlan, Harlan, and you can see everything I'm up to at harlanhill.com. Thanks, Denny.
All right, everyone. That is our interview with Harlan Hill. I'm wishing him the best, and I'm sure everyone in Mar-a-Lago is going to love the documentary. I'm very excited to see what he is going to be producing in the coming months. He's done a lot of great work with the Trump team, so I'm very hopeful that Trump wins and Harlan continues to do great things with them. Just a reminder, we have an ongoing $10 special for hand and foot cream. If you go to dmlcbd.com/store, you can check out what's still available to buy. I think currently we still have books available, right, Rye? And I think some other things like t-shirts and whatnot. If you just go to the website, it's going to have listed what is still available and what's sold out. But there is a lot that are sold out. So go to the website, check out what's available, purchase an item for $10, and you get our DML CBD face serum included with it at that awesome price. As for upcoming programming, DML should be back tomorrow. Then we have an Ask DML on Wednesday. And then ending the week for Thursday and Friday, we have 2 more interviews to premiere. One of them, or actually 2 of them, are very centric to Team DML. And that's what I'll give out at the moment. So excited for those. We're going to try and get a lot of interviews and a lot of guest segments leading up to the election. Try and just get perspective as to where everything lies with the presidential race. So until then, God bless you all, and I hope you have a fantastic start to your Monday. And the Team DML blessing goes out to Terrence Smith. Thank you, everyone.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.